Do you think you can't buy a house because of your bad credit score? You're not alone, but you might be closer than you think. A lot of people assume bad credit means you have to sit on the sidelines, but in 2025, that's not always true. In this video, I'm walking you through exactly what I'd do if I had bad credit and still wanted to buy a home, what bad credit means, which loan options still work, how to boost your score fast, and how to avoid the biggest mistakes that could set you back. This is the real plan I'd follow, and if you're in this situation, it could work for you too. Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What does bad credit actually mean? People use the phrase all the time, but most don't know the actual numbers. And just to be clear, when I talk about credit score in this video, I'm referring to your FICO score. That's the version most mortgage lenders use when deciding if you qualify. Some apps like Credit Karma show a different score called Vantage Score, which can be higher, but it's not what lenders rely on for mortgages. Now, as of this recording, there has been some talks that maybe lenders will start to use Vantage Score, but it's not 100% yet. If your credit score is below 740, you're not getting the best interest rates. That's just how lenders work. But for most mortgage programs, the cutoff points that matter are lower than that. If your score is in the 680 to 739 range, you're still considered a solid borrower. Drop down to the 620 to 679 range, and you're in what's called fair credit. Now, under 620 is where most lenders start to get nervous. That's where the credit score becomes a real issue. If I had a score under 620, I'd know that things are going to be a little more challenging. But I also wouldn't panic, because some loan programs and some lenders are still willing to work with buyers in that range. The key takeaway here is this: just because your score is in the 500s or low 600s doesn't mean you're automatically out, but it does mean you'll need to be strategic and you'll need to work with the right people. You can go to my website at workwithdang.com for free resources like a quick start home buying guide and a home buyer's course. I can help you find a real estate agent in your area. There's more information on my website. I make videos like this every week. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If I had bad credit right now and I was serious about buying a home, the first thing I'd do is look at the loan programs that are actually designed to help people in that situation. For most buyers, the FHA loan is the most accessible option. FHA is specifically designed to help people with lower credit or limited savings. If your score is 580 or higher, you can qualify for an FHA loan with just 3.5% down. If your score is between 500 and 579, it's still possible, but you need to put down at least 10%. Next, I'd look into the USDA loan. Most lenders want a 640 score for USDA because it gives them access to streamlined underwriting systems, but not all of them. Some lenders will go as low as 500, especially if you have what's called compensating factors. That could be things like long-term rental history, stable income, or minimal monthly debt. And if you're buying in a USDA eligible area, you could qualify for a true zero-down loan even with less than perfect credit. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Some lenders have what's called overlays, meaning they set their own higher standards on top of the USDA or FHA guidelines. So while the USDA doesn't technically require a 640 score, a lot of lenders still use that as a baseline. I've talked to people who've gotten approved with a score in the 500s and others who couldn't move forward until they hit 640. So your experience may vary depending on the lender. Also, keep in mind, if you're applying for the USDA direct loan, which is handled directly through the government instead of a bank, the credit standards may be different. They'll look at your full file, not just your score, but they may not work with scores in the 500s. But it's important to note that USDA doesn't publish a specific credit score minimum, but I haven't seen them go lower than 500. If I was a veteran or active duty service member, I'd absolutely check my eligibility for a VA loan. The VA itself doesn't have a minimum credit score, so the requirements vary by lender. Some will work with credit scores as low as 580 or 600, especially if the rest of your loan file looks strong. VA loans are also incredibly flexible, no down payment, no mortgage insurance, so it's worth exploring even if your credit's not great. Bottom line, bad credit might limit your options, but it doesn't eliminate them entirely. There are still ways in. You just have to find the right door. Now, if my credit score wasn't great, I'd stop thinking about the number as the only thing that matters, because the truth is, lenders look at your whole financial picture. If I had bad credit, I'd ask myself a few key questions. First, do I have a steady job and constant income? If I've been working for at least a year or two at the same company or in the same line of work, that gives me stability in the lender's eyes. That's a big plus. Second, what does my debt to income ratio look like? That just means how much of my monthly income is already going toward debt payments. If If I don't have a car loan, personal loans, or big credit card bills, I might have more wiggle room than I thought. Even with a lower credit score, a low DTI makes me look less risky. Third, have I been paying rent on time? If I've got 12 or 24 months of on-time rent payments, especially if I can document it, that can go a long way. Some lenders will even count that as alternative credit history, which might help if you have a thin credit file. And finally, do I have any savings? I don't need $50,000 in the bank, but even a small amount that can show the lender that I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. A couple $1,000s, enough to cover closing costs or emergency expenses, can help make a stronger case. If I'm weak in one area, I'd want to be strong in the others. That's how I'd build a file that gives the best shot, even with bad credit. Next, I'd make sure I'm making all my payments on time. No late payments, not even a day. That's one of the most important parts of your score, and it's something that I can control. If I've got credit cards that I'm not using, I wouldn't close them. Keeping those accounts open helps with credit age and available credit, both of which help your score. I might even call and ask for a credit limit increase. If my limit goes up and my balance stays the same, that improves my utilization, which can help my score without spending a dime. And if I was trying to add a few extra points, I'd look into Experience Boost. As of this recording, it's a free service that may boost your FICO credit score. By adding positive payment history from your bank account, like utility bills or streaming service subscriptions, you can potentially see a boost in your FICO score with this service. There are also other services out there that can help raise your credit score, but make sure before you sign up for Experience Boost or anything to do your research to make sure it's a good fit for you and it's something that you can afford if it's not a free service. Alright, let's talk about what I wouldn't do. If I had bad credit, I wouldn't start applying all over the place with random lenders. Every time your credit is pulled, your score can drop a few points. Now, if it's multiple pulls within a short window, it usually only counts as one for scoring purposes, but even so, I wouldn't shop around without a plan. Instead, I'd be selective. I'd find one lender who understands my situation and is used to working with credit-challenged borrowers. Maybe someone who specializes in FHA or even has access to manual underwriting for USDA or VA. I'd explain my goals up front and ask them to do a soft pull if possible, or if not, at least wait until I'm confident they're a good fit. I wouldn't go out and buy a car or open up a new credit card just because I get pre-approved. I've seen people ruin their chances of getting a loan by doing that. You might qualify on Monday, go finance a new truck on Tuesday, and suddenly get denied on Wednesday because your DTI went up or your score dropped. And I definitely wouldn't rush into buying just because I can, especially if I haven't taken time to understand my budget, the payment, and whether I'm really ready to be a homeowner. A lot of people get pre-approved for the maximum amount a lender will give them, but that doesn't mean it's what you should spend. So if I had bad credit, I'd be even more careful because the monthly payment will probably be higher than someone with great credit, and that means I need to budget smart. One thing I'd absolutely do is check my full credit report, not just the score. If I saw anything that looked wrong, like a late payment that wasn't mine or an account that should have been closed, I dispute it. You can do that directly with the credit bureaus, and in some cases, getting something negative removed can give your score a noticeable boost. Even if a late payment was yours, if it was tied to a hardship like medical issues or a temporary job loss, it might be worth contacting the creditor to see if they'll remove it as a goodwill adjustment, especially if everything else has been on time since. Now, here's something I think more people need to hear, especially if you've got bad credit. Most lenders want to help, but at the end of the day, their job is to get your loan approved and closed, because that's how they get paid. And sometimes, even if they mean well, they might recommend a loan or a program that technically works, but isn't really the best fit for you long term. If I had bad credit, I'd be extra cautious about that, because there are lenders out there offering bad credit loans that come with really high interest rates, big upfront fees, or adjustable rates that go up after a couple of years. They may not explain all the fine print, or they might assume that since I have limited options, I'll take whatever I can get. I'd also watch out for certain types of loans called non-QM loans, short for non-qualified mortgages. These are loans that don't meet the usual rules for things like income documentation, credit score, or debt-to-income ratio. They can be useful in very specific situations, like if you're self-employed or have non-traditional income, but they often come with higher interest rates, stricter terms, and a lot more risk. So if someone was offering me a loan with no income documents, no credit check, and no questions asked, I wouldn't be excited. I'd be skeptical. If it sounds too easy, there's usually a reason for that. Instead, I want a lender who's honest with me, someone who takes the time to understand understand my full situation, income, credit, goals, and budget, and helps me find a loan that's sustainable, not just approvable. Because here's the thing, a lender might approve you for a loan that technically works on paper, but they don't know every detail about your life. They don't know if your job is changing, or if daycare costs are going up, or if you're helping a family member financially. That's why you have to be the one looking out for your long-term stability, even if someone else says you're good to go. So if something feels off, if the payment feels too high, or the loan terms are confusing, I'd pause. I'd ask questions, and I'd get a second opinion from someone who understands affordable housing, government-backed loans, or whatever program you're using. Because getting approved is one thing, but staying in the home long-term and with peace of mind, that's the goal. So would I buy a house in 2025 if I had bad credit? Maybe, but I'd want to be smart about it. If my score was close, let's say 610 or 620, and I had stable income, low debts, and maybe some down payment help or closing cost assistance, I might move forward now, especially if I was in a market where rents were high and home prices were still within reach. But if my score was in the low 500s and I had a bunch of collections or late payments from just a few months ago, I'd probably wait. I'd use the next 3 to 6 months to clean things up, save a little more, and put myself in a better position. I'd rather wait and buy the right house with the right loan than rush into something that hurts me financially. That said, sometimes waiting doesn't actually help. If home prices keep rising and rents keep going up, you might end up spending more by waiting. So it really depends on your specific situation. The key is to run the numbers, look at your monthly budget, talk to a lender who knows how to guide buyers like you. So let's bring it all together. If I had bad credit but still wanted to buy a home in 2025, here's the plan that I'd follow. First, I'd check my credit, not just the score, but the full report. I'd look for errors, high balances, late payments, anything I can clean up quickly. Second, I'd talk to a lender who works with buyers like me. I wouldn't just apply anywhere. I'd be strategic and ask questions about FHA, USDA, or VA depending on what I'm eligible for. Third, I'd keep my finances stable. No big purchases, no job changes, no late payments. I'd set up auto pay if I needed to. Fourth, I'd build a realistic budget, not based on what the lender says I can afford, but what actually fits into my life. I'd factor in maintenance, property taxes, insurance, the stuff people forget. And finally, I'd stay patient but persistent. I wouldn't give up just because my credit's not perfect. I'd keep improving, keep learning, and when the time is right, I'd be ready. Your credit score doesn't define your future, but the steps you take next just might. Whether you're buying this year or just getting started, you're not stuck and you're not alone. Check out this video to learn more about how to buy a home. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It motivates me to make more videos.